Welcome to Legacy Cast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is Legacy Cast. Welcome, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from North Texas, and enjoying this early January weather here. Not as cold as some of the people are suffering through, but it's Texas, so wait 15 minutes, you might just get something different. We have a very exciting guest on the program today, Chris Bentley. And Chris and I had met several years back through different networking things that we've done, just kind of bouncing off events back and forth with each other. But finally just got a chance to sort of circle back around and get him on here. But he's a real estate person, so I'll let him kind of go into all the details there, but just crushing it in business, and then let him explain sort of all the fingers that he's got into things. Chris, welcome to the program, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be on.
So as far as your business model, I mean, you've got several things going on. How would you describe that?
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I have a lot of different stuff that I like to do. And I've always been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life. In terms of what I'm doing, I have real estate, which I've been doing for the past 15 years now. And then on top of that, I run a hedge fund, which is fun, obviously, because of the market volatility. There's a lot of good stuff going on in that. And then I have an Amazon store on top of that, which I do for fun. Me and my buddy kind of are competing against each other to see how much we can outsell each other. That's kind of a fun deal. I have Plano socialites, which I'm about to get more involved in terms of like just having the structure set up, which started out with just, a meetup group, and now it's grown to 4,700 members, which is now kind of crazy. So that's just a business networking group, and some other stuff that I'm kind of eyeballing and getting involved in. So it's just kind of a fun thing that I like to do. A lot of other people like to, go play basketball after they get out of work, or like go, go play golf. Like for me, it's starting businesses.
Yeah. So with the program, obviously, we talk about legacies here, and your angle sort of has a very unique spin on legacies, because I mean, like you say, you have so many irons in the fire. But when you hear about legacy, what does that mean to you on a personal level when you think about it? How would you define it?
For me, it's being able to be Googled at some point, maybe like a wiki legacy kind of, or wiki profile. But yeah, it's just being able to have somebody to go back and able to research me and be able to see like everything that I've done. That's kind of what I've been doing with a lot of like the podcast now, and like books and different stuff, just trying to be able to, if I ever have kids or at some point somebody wants to research me, they can just be like, oh yeah, like I knew this dude, like I met him at a networking event. I didn't know he was, had, books, or I didn't know that he was, named D Magazine, realtor twice in a row, or, just like different stuff. And that's really cool for me.
So do you feel it's important that people actively consider what they're doing on a day-to-day basis that's going to impact their own legacy?
I think just different milestones, like whatever they're aiming for. I mean, not everybody wants to, be in magazines or be in videos or stuff like that. There's just something that I enjoy. Other people can get gratification or legacy through like their children, and how they raise them, or just different stuff. So like I don't, I think if it was a different take, if if I was married and had kids, I don't think I would be quite as ambitious because I would have more time wrapped up with them.
Right. I certainly understand that. So how would you say that your views on legacy have influenced how you've planned your business? Or has there been a crossover there?
It's been a situation where, like, if I did something, what would be the long term? So I'm always looking at it like, is this gonna, if I do something now, is that gonna stick around for a long time? And then if it is, then I would do it, versus being like, well, like nobody would really recognize that. Like, for instance, like Amazon, the Amazon store stuff, like I would put you to sleep if I sat here and was like, yeah, I could get like $1 profit if I flip this like bottle of vitamins. Like nobody is like super excited about that. But if you're a salesperson like I am, like I love sales, and that's fun for me to be sit in a room and contemplate like, hey, if I were to flip this like thing of coffee, would I be able to get $2 for it or not? That's just fun stuff. But if I go out to a bar and start telling somebody about flipping stuff on Amazon, there's nothing very exciting about that.
So as a CEO and entrepreneur, what would be maybe a couple things that keep you up at night about that?
Downside leverage. So for me, there's a couple of different things, a couple of different businesses I do. So for the hedge fund, I mean, people just pull out their money at it, in the middle of the night, and they want to just cancel out. With Amazon, I have inventory. So I have inventory costs and holding fees. So I have to spend upfront and hope that it sells on the back end, which a lot of people really don't understand. And that's one of the things that people really don't understand about entrepreneurship or just being a business owner is that, you have to pay a lot of times up front and hope you sell in the back, or you hope you close in the back. Real estate's the same deal. You're buying leads up front and hoping that you close enough leads to like pay for those leads. So there's just a lot of different stuff. And I think a lot of people don't get that feeling that you get when it's the end of the month and you have to pay your credit card bills, but you're like one sale shy of meeting that, and you have to figure out how you're going to get that extra couple bucks to make that bill that month, and then not even see next month yet. It's just a weird way that we work, and especially as a business owner.
Yep. So you believe it's important that people create business plans and other key strategies for themselves and their business, or is it safe for them to kind of go fly by the seat of their pants, so to speak?
I don't recommend flying by the seat of your pants unless you've been doing it for a while. Like I had my own auto shop business when I was 18. Before that, like I was washing people's cars. I was selling blow pops in school. I was shoveling snow. I'm from DC, so we got snow. Like when I really, really started out when I was a kid, I would go through people's trash because I was upper middle class kid, and like I would repair whatever they were throwing out and then sell it on the side of the road, on Saturday mornings. And people would be like, hey, isn't that like my boombox? I'm like, yeah, I fixed the speakers. And they'd be like, oh, like, well, I want it back. I'm like, well, it's $20. Like it's just, I was just wired differently. So I tend to fly by the seat of my pants just because I've been used to it and I kind of know like the pitfalls. I like to jump in front of stuff. Like I'll be like, oh, we're going to go start this business. And then I'll have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'll just jump in front and go do it and then figure it out later. And I don't recommend that for everyone. That's just, I've done it long enough to like see what it's like.
Yeah, you have to have a stomach for that kind of an approach.
Yes.
So what do you think the most common reason is that entrepreneurs are either failing or giving up?
Lack of patience. I ran into this problem a lot, and it also stems off of comparing yourself to other people. So for me, I was in the financial services business, and I was making money being like anywhere from $100 to $400 a month, and I wasn't content on that because other people were making a couple of thousand. And I was like, oh man, this is never going to happen for me. And I quit. And if I had just stayed with it a little longer, I probably would have been in a way different spot than I am right now in terms of like, probably would have had my own agency. So.
So, as far as roadblocks and resources that you've come across during your business time, what are some of those roadblocks that you'd warn a new business person about, and then resources you would advise them to take advantage of?
Definitely lack of capital. I think jumping in front of something without lack of capital will get you living in your car, like it almost did for me. So last year I bought a ton of zip codes off of like a Zillow or Trulia. It's actually homes.com. And the leads didn't pan out. I didn't get enough people to call. So every single month I was in the red. And, it was brutal. So by the time I got to a certain part of that subscription, I had no money. I was eating eggs and bacon every single, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I never went out. I was super stressed. And at one point, it was like a do or die, and I was going to move into my car. So, like, I don't recommend that, like, at all. So, and if you're going to do something like that, and you're going to be like, okay, this is it, like, I'm just going to jump off the side of the mountain and figure it out, it's better that you're, like, very young, and you can, like, move in with a bunch of your homies, or, like, sleep on the couch somewhere, or, do something like that. Mark Cuban did that, so... but I don't recommend that. I would recommend you the staying time and the way the job market is. Just get a job for a while and do it as like a side hustle until you get your feet pretty much set, and you don't need the job. You can just work the side hustle as your full time.
Yep. So there's some resources that you've tapped into that have been able to help you out?
A lot of YouTube. There is some mentors I recommend if you have the money, like paying for a mentorship. If you don't, watch YouTube videos. If you can, go to different events that specialize in whatever you're looking for. So if it's real estate, if it's financial services, if it's stock trading, whatever it is, just go out there and go do it. If you're a real estate investor and you want to go learn real estate stuff, there's definitely some weekend courses. The problem is that you want to spend most of your time networking and less of your time actually involved in the actual trading, because you're going to need those resources to bounce ideas off of different stuff. Like my buddy that does the Amazon stuff, like I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am now if I didn't like ask him questions on a daily basis. So I don't spend nearly as much time as he does on like the Amazon and the Facebook sites in terms of like learning FBA. I just like I'll figure it out, and then I'll come to a question and I'll try to Google it and look it up myself, and then I'll just ask him. I'll be like, hey, like, this is everything that I've compiled, and I still am kind of stuck here. And he'll be like, oh yeah, it's just in this drop down tab, and I'm like, oh, that makes more sense now. So it's just like really small details, but when you're coming out the gate and you're trying to do something as an entrepreneur, you need those small details to kind of get you over the hump.
So how would you say personal values and belief systems play roles in your business, and how would you advise other people to either incorporate it in their business or not?
Well, if you do shady stuff, like, you're not going to be in the business very long. So I have a lot of like core beliefs of stuff that I want to do. I don't cut corners. I would rather do it the long tail, and however long it takes me, that's fine. That's the journey, and that's the fun part, believe it or not. So there's plenty of opportunities to really, cut corners on different stuff. Like, just don't do it. I always do that. I'm faith-based, so, I believe in doing things the right way. And of course, like, I don't go out and lie or cheat. Like, I rather just tell people straight up, like, what the situation is, and then let you decide how you want to go about doing it. So, like anything. So I can submit an offer on something and just submit it and hope that it gets through and like deal with it later, or I could just tell the person straight up, like, hey, look, that's not going to fly. I have a reputation. That's not going to work for me. Like, we could do it the right way, which is doing it, submitting it this way, or like you can find another realtor. So it's just a lot of integrity, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree there. Now, when you were starting the different businesses, obviously there would be different hurdles that you'd have to overcome. Maybe you can talk us through some of those things, some of the hurdles you had to overcome.
In real estate, the biggest hurdle was just like no experience. So I had to match myself up with somebody that was a top performer. And a lot of people are really like that are new that's trying to like jump on my team or try to learn from me. They really don't understand like what I had to do. So for him to work with me, I had to come up with a list of people that wanted to buy houses or looking to sell their house. And then I gave those to him, and he made the calls. And I listened to him make the calls. I went on the appointments with him. I sat in his apartment, or actually, I think he had a townhouse. I sat with him like every single day, anytime I could, in his office, anywhere to like learn the business. And at one point, he went on vacation, and I was entrusted to like close a bunch of deals. So every single day, I would like get on the phone with like the title and get on the phone with like lending and learn all that stuff. And then it was just pretty much from there. It was a trial by fire because each deal is different, and you have different avenues that things
Mm-hmm.
get explored in. But yeah, I mean that was how I came up with real estate, and a lot of new agents really don't understand that because and I understand they're trying to make up their money. They're trying to make up that time they spent in class and studying, but that's what it takes. Is like the hand holding and like going and doing different stuff and see how it's done.
Yep. So were those answers obvious to you, or did you kind of stumble upon some of those?
I stumble upon a lot of stuff, but a lot of the stuff that I do is trial by fire. Like I just kind of go and do it, and then if I screw up and learn. That's
Yeah.
not really the best way to do it. It's just the way that I learn the best because I don't spend a whole bunch of time researching and trying to figure something out when I can just kind of do it and then feel it and then understand it. So I mean, that's just kind of the premise of any business that I've ever started. I think the
Mm-hmm.
biggest downfall that I've ever had was just not being patient enough to like see it through. And then once you've seen a business through, then you're like, oh, okay, like I get this now. Like I just need to be a little bit more patient, or that person's having more success because they're doing one particular thing that I'm not doing. So I could either do that or I can just stay patient on the same course that I'm doing now.
Now, when you got started in your businesses, how did you get started? Maybe talk us through a little bit of that.
Well, man, real estate, I was a loan officer and everybody was making more money than me, selling real estate. So it was just a different facet. And back then you could be a realtor and a mortgage loan officer. So, we were just kind of toying with the idea and I just kind of jumped on it. Amazon, my buddy was doing it. So that was pretty easy. Like there was already a blueprint for it. And I think that's pretty much anything with really any business is like, especially now with the way that you can do so much research. If I wanted to become something, I would just research it to death and then make a decision on like, what's my upside, what's my downside, how long is this going to take me, and whether I just love doing it. I think that's, now that the world has gone very entrepreneurial and very business owner and everybody thinks it's cool. Gary V's out with sneakers and cereal and that's
Yep.
like the very extreme case of entrepreneurship. So I think a lot of people think it's like glamorized and it's cars and boats and girls and bottles of champagne when it's really like this weekend, I didn't even really go out at all. I didn't hang out with anybody. Instead of going to go watch the Cowboys game and the playoffs, like I sat at home and negotiated a contract. And then I set up a website for my networking group, so that's what I think a lot of people really miss is that it's super lonely. super time invasive, like super just you just banging away at stuff. And it's not glamorous at all. That's, the only time it's glamorous is when you get recognized for doing something at the end of the year, or you met your sales quota, or you got like a promotion or whatever it is that you're aiming for.
So was there a particular point in time that you had sort of, that proverbial aha moment that compelled you to become an entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur?
Not really. I mean, I'm a second generation immigrant to this country. My dad came here from Greece, so my mom was, I think, second. So it's in me. I just enjoy it. For me, I think the aha moment was when somebody taught me how money works. That I could make money by doing a certain, service, and then take that money and go do something else with it, whether it's save it or buy something. And then, then I got into flipping stuff, even as a kid. So I would take, a case of gum, and then so each stick of gum for 25 cents, and then pay off the case within like a couple of sticks of gum. And then before you know it, I'm ahead of the game, and then I can do it, multiply it. I can have other people sell gum for me. I mean, I was a terrible kid. I mean, if eBay was around or like Amazon was around back then, like I would have never left my house.
I believe it. So is there maybe another profession that you would like to attempt out there that you haven't tried yet?
Well, mainly geared for sales. So, I don't really know. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time. Like I think the next thing for me is building a fund, like a $25 million fund, just to go out and flip properties. I think that's probably my next hurdle. And I'm getting ready to do that probably in the next 2 years. So.
Oh, I had to keep our eyes on that.
Thank you.
What would you say is your greatest strength there, Chris?
Sales, I think, is my strength. I also think building businesses is my strength. I think my vision, more than anything, is the strength behind the businesses. Like being able to see, okay, what's my downside? How long is this going to take? What kind of capital do I need to raise, or how much capital do I need to save? I don't really do a whole lot of raising. I just work and then save it. And then a lot of times people will see what I'm doing and be like, hey, like you could really use, a couple extra bucks, or you really need to have like an office here, or you can probably get more sales by doing this. So that's the really cool thing about networking is you run into people that are, doing it or have done it, and kind of see what you're doing that you can't see.
On the flip side of that, your greatest weakness, what would you say that is?
Terrible at organizational skills, terrible at taxes, terrible at a lot of that stuff I'm just really terrible at. Like it's just not a strong suit. My sister's a master CPA, so she handles my taxes, but it's just a headache for me. Like I've never been good at accounting. Like I struggled in college to do that. I actually went to college. But yeah, like it's not my thing. Like that doesn't excite me, trying to understand that. So, anything that I'm not good at is I just pass off. Like there's other people that are good at it, so you just find them.
Yeah, there's actually some wisdom to doing that, because we'll end up spending a lot more money trying to do it ourselves. So better.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like I could sit here and I used to play bass in a band, and I could sit here all day and be like, okay, I'm gonna learn the guitar, and sit here and like try to learn a guitar. And the thing is, like I don't have the ear for it, so I had to sit there and actually write out each note, versus somebody that has been playing guitar since they were like 7 and could hear the music. Me trying to emulate that person, it would be like I would spend probably the next 50 years just trying to get remotely close to being a good guitar player.
So is there a special place that you go to for getting your ideas, brainstorming?
Um, a lot of times it's just overhearing other people. So like a lot of networking, a lot of like talking to other people. It's not even really so much networking groups. I could just go out, where there's a lot of other business owners, entrepreneurs. And that's where I think one of my next things is going to be coming into the future is probably going to a lot more bigger events that are geared
Mhm.
particularly towards a particular subject, whether that be stock trading, whether it be real estate, whether that be just small business stuff. That's going to be my next deal is just going out and meeting different people, networking, if at a particular event or particular seminar or particular conference.
So if you're to describe for someone just starting in business at a very high level, what it looks like in your day, how would you describe that?
It really depends because I do so many different things. I could have
Mm-hmm.
one day where everything kind of comes back at me, or I can have one day where it's just one business at a time. Uh, for me, it's waking up early, putting out fires, meaning that there's problems, uh, and I think a lot of new business owners really don't understand that, or entrepreneurs. Just getting out the gate, there is a lot of problems because you're the last line of defense. Like you're the business owner.
Right,
There's
right.
nobody, to point fingers to. So in the morning, that's what I do. I wake up, do that. I'm big on social media, so I got to reply to people comments. Got to see what's going on. From there, it's exercise, clear the mind, get ready for the day. And then it's showings or appointments, or I trade a lot in the stocks, so I'm watching the stock market, pre-market. I may be trading. So I have a lot of stuff going on in the morning, and then it kind of eases into the afternoon, which is more dealing with the day-to-day business. And then evenings are appointments, showings, mostly contracts writing. If it's the Amazon stuff, picking up supplies, packaging, labeling. Uh, usually the stock market's closed, so I don't really have to worry too much about that. But it's more, seeing if I can raise more capital for the fund. Just a lot of that stuff. Networking events, like I got one coming up tomorrow. So it's just a lot of that kind of stuff. But when they all come back to roost, that's when it's a big problem. So that's when you're like your hair is on fire and you can't. You got one person calling about one thing, and they got another person calling about the other, and they can't get a hold of another person can't get a hold of you because you're on the phone, so they're texting you. So it's just and then they're firing off emails. So it's crazy sometimes.
Yep, sounds familiar. So for the final question, it's sort of a trivia like question. What is something about you, Chris, that most people don't know?
I got a lot of tattoos. I spent a good majority of my life in a hospital when I was younger. I had a lot of medical issues back then. I was born in '78, so the '80s there wasn't really an internet. Like you couldn't really diagnose people. It was just kind of like somebody heard something and read it in some medical book, and they tried to figure it out. Yeah, so that was a lot of my childhood. My dad died at an early age, so I had a stepfather, which wasn't very good. So I had a really interesting childhood, to put it mildly. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I really don't talk about. I'm usually a pretty private person. I've been trying to do a lot more Instagram stories just to kind of show what it's like to be an entrepreneur and kind of
Mm-hmm.
show that that other people that had really bad childhoods or were faced with a lot of adversity when they were a kid or even now, when I ran out of money, that there is light at the other end of the tunnel, that no matter what happened to you, you can rise above it because there's blueprints. There's other people like me that had it worse. So it just it depends on what you want to make of it.
No, very true. Very true. Well, but before we wind up, I just want to make sure that we get an opportunity for you to put your contact information out there, so that anybody that needs to reach out to you, do business with you, whatever. emails, websites, any of that information?
Yeah, absolutely. The website is Chris D as in danger Bentley .com. That's my website. Email Chris at Rogers with an S Healy.com. I have 2 books out, ebooks. If you'd like to get those will be free for just listening for the show. Just message me. Social media is fine. Email is fine. Anywhere on social media, it's just chrisdbentley.com. And then Chris D. Bentley on social media.
Excellent, buddy. Well, I appreciate you taking some time out of your afternoon to be here, for the guests, and just for us to, dig in a little bit and get to know some of the backstory behind what drives you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, my friend. You've been listening to Legacy Cast. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to come back next time as we speak with more top influencers, industry experts, and business owners from around the world.